When the film based on this crime, Heavenly Creatures, was released in 1994, it reignited people's interest in the case. Media outlets went bananas again, some even going on the search for the two teen girls. Julie and Pauline were eventually found, both bearing new identities and middle-aged women. Pauline Parker took the name Hillary Nathan. Juliet Hume changed hers to Ann Stewart, but after some time, she changed it once more to the one we all know today. Anne Perry, the murder mystery novelist. The movie Heavenly Creatures was directed and co-written by Peter Jackson and his partner Fran Walsh. Jackson was displeased when media and journalists sought information about the girls following the release of the movie. Hillary, also known as Pauline, had become a special needs teacher and established a stable to teach children how to ride horses, which was one of the few activities that Pauline and Juliet could medically participate in. Hillary was described as odd yet kind, living mostly in solitude. Juliet pursued her writing aspirations she shared with Pauline, adopting the name Anne Perry. Her stepfather suggested that she write a story set during the time of serial killer Jack the Ripper, which then initiated her career as an author. Anne Perry became a well-known writer for many years. When the movie revealed her true identity, Anne publicly addressed this part of her life with the support of her agents and loved ones around her, providing her perspective that she did not share during the trial because she and Pauline were never allowed to testify. Anne Perry would tell interviewers she felt a debt to save her friend. Pauline confided in her that she was miserable and how her mother was treating her. We know at the trial, Anne's mother, Hilda, told the court about the severe punishments that Pauline had received. During a scene in the movie Heavenly Creatures, Honora slaps Pauline across the face. This is after Pauline was caught with a boarder staying in her home in her bed. Pauline was reprimanded, told by her movie dad how she had broken his heart. Her mother's reaction was to call Pauline names like a cheap little tart and a disgrace.
You know what has happened with this boy. Don't you have any shame? You're ashamed of him. You're nothing but a cheap little
But the scene where this happens is when Pauline is only 14. The age of consent at this time in New Zealand was 16. She's found with John, or Nicholas. He was renting a room at the home, which Honora had turned into a boarding house. The Reaper Parker family home was in a rundown part near Canterbury University. This was the school that Anne's father, Dr. Henry Hume, was invited to teach at. Hume was a well-renowned scientist and one of the few people who worked on the Manhattan Project. Honora's boarding home business was frequented by the local students and faculty. Nick was an assistant college professor. As part of evidence at trial, Pauline's diary was entered and every line scrutinized. For the movie, Jackson and Walsh heavily relied on Pauline's diary as a part of their research for the movie. The movie also claimed in bold print on movie posters that it was a true story. Pauline had recorded when the boarders her mother took in would come. They were all men ranging in ages from 25 to 35. In the film, her mother's response after learning an adult male was in her minor's child's bed was to slap Pauline once across the face. Research partners and professors from Victoria University in Wellington, New Zealand, think this scene was based on one instance in Pauline's diary. Co-writers of the book Parker and Hume's A Lesbian View, Julie Glamazina and Allison J. Laurie, disagree. Their book came out before the movie, but both women had spoken since for interviews and documentaries. Allison published a paper after watching the Jackson film, surmising that this scene was probably when, as told by Pauline, Honora slapped her not once, but 7 times across the face. Many media outlets and sources ignore and continue to do so the additional facts of this case. It doesn't alter the sentence or the crime itself. And what it doesn't do is help strengthen the narrative that these 2 teens were just the epitome of evil and immorality. In one true crime book by Peter Graham, he talks about a Dr. Reginald Medlicott and his diagnosis of the girls during the 1954 trial. Medlicott was the psychologist for the defense side. Only after young teen schoolgirls at around 13 and 14 are heavy with erotic symbolism. Jackson and Walsh have the actors playing minors kiss and make out in various scenes, many times in their underwear or in bed. But Pauline's diary, plus witnesses and the girls themselves confidently and confusingly answered that they had never kissed or done anything remotely sexual together. The doctors diagnosing them even admitted the girls seemed truthful when asked about how they felt about each other acting on any of these feelings. The same medical professionals asked Juliet about romantic feelings for Pauline. The doctors then described Juliet looking and sounding confused. She stated 2 girls can't be together like that because it's physically impossible. One of these professionals, Dr. Medlicott, was well renowned in his field. And when he testified at trial, it was his first time testifying at a trial for anything, ever. This same professional of the human mind recalled a dream 30 or so years after the trial in an interview of some evil scorpion-like creature Medlicott said he knew somehow it was Juliet, even though this scorpion creature didn't have a face. You couldn't see its face. But he said it just felt like it was Juliet. He would also draw unfounded comparisons of Juliet and Pauline to the likes of Commander-in-Chief to the Luftwaffe in the Second World War. Over the course of his 30-year career, Medlicott continued re-diagnosing them every time a new condition or disorder was discovered. After their prison sentences, Juliet left New Zealand, and after completing her parole, Pauline left as well. So he's diagnosing these two people who he never speaks to again and never sees again. Yet, over the next 30 years of his career, he continuously talks and writes about this case and his re-diagnosis of whatever condition or disorder or whatever comes out, or illness. He's like, oh, that one fits. Now that one fits. I personally feel that Reg couldn't grasp how outspoken this generation of kids were becoming, especially two teen girls who were supposed to be quiet and polite and well-behaved, but they weren't. They would call him a bloody fool and an idiot. Misbehaving girls at the time were often labeled as evil because they were acting out according to the rules of society. He wasn't the only adult shocked by the younger generations. During this time, in not just New Zealand, but around the world, the subculture of the teenager was emerging. For the first time, the word teenager was being used. It was coined in the 1800s, but it wasn't until the 1940s where the term caught on. People were afraid of these teenagers. Rock and roll listening, pompadour wearing, hip gyrating teens beginning to change, acting differently than the generations before them. Times were changing. The traditionalist society did not like it, especially in a very religious and conservative city like Christchurch, New Zealand. There was a worldwide panic caused by the growing plague of juvenile delinquency. Government handed out pamphlets warning citizens to beware of these dangerous pubescent hellions. Thanks to the improvements to post-war life, like the growing economy, consumerism, and all those men home from war, helped to create everyone's favorite and largest generation to date, the baby boomers. And these boomers are the ones who began the original rebellion of teenagers. This subculture began with the boomer generation because they were tired of being told what to do, how to do it, how to dress, how to look, who to marry, and they didn't like it. They did not like the rules. The tragic murder of Honora Reaper Parker should have never occurred. Honora did not deserve to die. Such a violent end to her life, or death in general. But having said this, I don't feel that should take away from how Pauline's mother was really like, especially when it impacts the crime itself. Besides her husband, Herbert Reaper, and mother, Amy Parker, No one came forward to testify or give a character statement or reference for Honora or talk about her. There weren't any neighbors or friends or even family members talking about her. What her mother and her husband said was limited and only really regarding this case, except when Herbert decided he wanted to gaslight everyone again and say what a wonderful, loving mother Honora was. Even then, like I said, Herbert couldn't remember much concerning his daughter's battle with osteomyelitis, as well as being caught lying multiple times to police with details about when he and Honora were first living as man and wife. By not divulging all the truth, mainstream media and other editorial platforms are able to cherry-pick what they want audiences to know. In the post-war world, people were looking for safety and familiarity. For generations, life was you're born, you grow up, you get married to the opposite sex, buy and start a home, have kids, take vacations, and rinse and repeat. Pauline and Juliet were not like typical girls at the time. They were seen as moody, selfish, and mercurial. Like teenagers really are. Psychology and child development weren't new fields, but still had much to understand about human development, especially in teenagers. Now we know that we go through a chemically induced hell of hormones packed with erratic emotions. Add typical and normal behavior of teens doing stupid things and taking chances, and you have a conflict waiting to happen. Societal expectations for girls differed from boys. Many societies were male-dominated, and women might have been known as the fair sex, but they definitely weren't treated fairly. Besides, raised as nothing more than baby-making machines who better like it or else, women had been treated quite differently in by generations of instilled behavior that were told to be seen and not heard. This generation, though, wasn't inclined to continue with the ways of their parents. During World War II, when women had to take up jobs for men who went to war, they realized they could not only do their husbands' jobs, a lot of the times they could do it better. Not all women wanted to stop working once the boys came home. Many didn't have a choice. And a lot of girls at this time didn't want to live the same lives as their mothers anymore. And if they did, they wanted to at least be able to have the freedom to pick it. Traditional gender roles at this time were taken seriously. When children like Pauline began to act differently than other girls, people felt that there was something wrong. She had strong convictions, opinions, and was unafraid to express them. Of course, where could Pauline have gotten such bold traits? Just like her middle child, Honora didn't seem to like people telling her what to do. She freely helped destroy another woman's home life by running away with her husband. And she helped this husband so he wouldn't have to pay child support or alimony to his wife and 2 sons. She called her minor-aged daughter a cheap little tart after an adult male slept with her daughter, who was 14 at the time. This mother punished her daughter by pulling her out of school, even when she was getting straight A's. The headmistress even called Honora and asked why Pauline wasn't coming to school anymore and said she's so bright, and they were upset that someone of her intellect would no longer be attending there. Honora's reasons were to make Pauline get a job like her older sister Wendy, which then concluded with Honora getting their paychecks. We have a mother who has blamed her daughter for costly medical bills, who got sick at the age of 4. When reviewing historical newspapers, films, or true crime literature, we often encounter accounts that emphasize sensationalized events. Media poured in from all over the world to report on this crime. In order to sell more papers, the headlines began to read false facts and fabrications. That sells newspapers. Gossip sells books. The flamboyance of it overshadows any truth important enough to be known. Mainstream media has been kicking up a frenzy with true crime news for a long time. In 1954, the newspapers rewrote the narrative to make sure everyone was of one mind. These girls were bad and they were evil. How can we trust anyone in the media? What can people involved in the true crime field learn about understanding and respecting the victims, their families, and others connected to these cases? Is it worth the risk? I'll be discussing that and more about this case, including the girls' severe illnesses and how Pauline seemed to get this mysterious injury that almost killed her. Thanks for tuning in to the Ink Noir podcast. I'm your host, The Wrathful Proser. You can find me on X at TheWrathfulProser_, Instagram at Ink Noir Pod, and TikTok at Ink Noir Podcast. If you wish to help out the channel and with my research, you can join my Patreon. I have it set at the 2 lowest tiers right now. There's no extra content at this moment. I'm still trying to keep up with what I have here, but I will eventually start adding things to Patreon. If you want to use my Cash App, it's just at The Wrathful Proser, but please don't feel obligated. Subscribing, sharing, and liking is free, and it really helps a lot. Thank you again so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. I spent a long time researching this case, and knowing that there are people who are listening and appreciating this means so much to me. Until next time.